Oh dear, the Antler Shield, an item I've been putting off just because I couldn't come up with any good ways to explain how to use it in game. This is the item probably most emblematic of a lot of people's complaints with Seekers of the Storm as a DLC. An item concept that I guess could have been made to work, even though it is a bit odd, but an item that in implementation is just entirely worthless when compared to almost every single other item in this game. And Gearbox, I believe, has become aware of that information themselves because they recently released a statement on a roadmap going forward how they're going to make a lot of changes to this DLC in Risk of Rain 2, and they're going to rework almost every single item that they've added to the game. Which, hey, I think that's great. Glad Gearbox is still putting time and effort into this DLC. I must also say that I'm very pleased Gearbox has decided to rework almost every item added to the DLC, given that I've spent the last 2 months of my life making guides on every single item added to their Rain 2's DLC. Gearbox really just said, hey, Kilroy, your whole channel, toss it. All that, worthless. Be gone. And hey, what can I say except they're visionaries right there. They know what to do. They said, Kilroy, we need you out of here. And I said, I appreciate the frankness, but I am going to stick around. And I'm going to continue making guides for all of the items added to Risk of Rain 2 as they exist right now. I'll probably put them in a playlist whenever they do get updated just to point out that all these guides are outdated. But hey, the internet is a time capsule, and I think it's important that I can document and give guides for the present for people in the future to see what the Dark Ages were like in Risk of Rain 2's lifespan. Alright? Alright. Now let's get on to the actual item. I lied. Before getting onto the item, the Antler Shield is the one item that Gearbox actually showed what their plans were to rework it already. This screenshot right here shows you they want to change it to something called the Elusive Antler, and they want to change it from a damage reflection item to a movement speed and barrier granting item. Now, I'm not here to make a debate on whether or not that's a good decision, but I am here to say that while I was researching Antler Shield, I came across a mod created by a man called KKing117, a visionary, one of the greatest game design heads of our lifetime, because he made Mocha Antler, a mod from 2 months ago, which changes the Antler Shield to become an item that gives you armor and movement speed. And Gearbox, like a couple weeks ago, is decided they're changing the Antler Shield to give you barrier and movement speed. So I would say, hey, KKing117, you should expect some guy from Gearbox reaching out to you in the next couple of weeks with a job application. They need your vision for the future of Risk of Rain 2, and I couldn't find a better man to be added to their group. So, Godspeed. Thank you for your service. And now, let me actually cover what I'm trying to do in this video. So, the Antler Shield. 55% chance plus 5% chance per stack on being hit to reflect 10% plus 10% per stack damage back to the attacker. This is a Gearbox item, so that description is wrong. It's not as wrong as some other items. It is a 50% chance, not a 55% chance on base. I don't even know why that is wrong. That is such a minor thing that you could... I don't know. I'm not even going to go into it, but this description is wrong. It's 50% chance at 1 stack. So at 10 stacks of this item, you will be getting 10 or 11. I'm not doing the math. 10 or 11 stacks of this item, you will get a guaranteed chance to reflect damage on being hit. And that amount will go up to either 100 or 110% damage. Now, if you know Risk of Rain 2, you would know that your HP as a character is usually around 100 from the off. Some people have higher, some people have lower. When enemies damage you for, say, 50 HP, if you have 1 stack of this item and it procs, they will take 5 damage back. 5 damage on a level 1 character is the amount of damage that every single character in this game can do by pressing their M1 once. They probably do more than 5 damage. This item is doing the most minute chip damage possible. If you get 10 stacks of this item, you will still be doing chip damage. It is entirely worthless in its only goal, because its only goal is to give enemies retaliatory damage upon being hit. And it succeeds in doing damage. It does not succeed in making that damage worth anything at all. You can see I got 12 stacks of this item before. I could not notice the damage that was being dealt when I got hit. 12 stacks of this item is worth less than 1 lens maker glass. It is worth less than probably 1 repulsion armor. It is worth less than 1 bustling fungus. I am not apologizing for saying that. Antler Shield fans, you need to step out now. Your item is worth nothing. It is worth less than every item in this game, except for probably Knockback Fin, which isn't good company. Now, I'm going to spend the rest of this video showcasing why what I said is true, and not just something that you can take at face value, but also, I know Gearbox is not sticking with the damage reflection concept. I don't really mind the damage reflection concept. It is unique from Razor Wire. This is a totally new item concept. Antler Shield could work great if those 2 numbers right there were just pumped all the way up, or at the very least the damage was. Maybe you can still make it a % chance, but this needs to be either 1000% or it needs to be based on the enemy's max HP. And that second alternate option of how this item would work is something I actually want to explore and show you why that would work, because there's already an item in this game that works like that, and I will show you what the Antler Shield could have been if it was balanced properly. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the Antler Shield and a ton of HP just to show off the actual use case of this item, by which I mean, of course, there is none. And for as much as I have been giving this item hell, you are now going to see why that is the case. So, level 1 commando, I do 11 damage per shot, or 24, or you can see the amount of damage I do to items, generally speaking. Now, I have 10 Antler Shield, which is either 100% or close to 100% reflect chance, and is 100 reflect damage. Now, 100% reflect damage. So, upon getting hit, you would expect 10 stacks of a damage reflection item to be a massive boon. I did 12 damage back to that Lemurian on being hit once. And Beetles, come on, hit me. 24. Wow, look at that chunk. I just lost about 600 HP. If I didn't have any Bison Steaks, I would have died around 6 times over. You know how else I could... I'm going to do this again. Alright. Beetle, come kill me. Okay, that didn't... I don't think that was a fair representation. Okay, Beetle, come kill me. There you go. 1. Alright, I just timed how long it takes to kill a Beetle with just Antler Shield when I have 10 stacks of it. Now, let me time how long it takes to kill a Beetle by just using my abilities. You see there's a slight difference there. Very slight difference, but I think it would be noticeable if you look hard enough. This is... I don't even know why... This is a guide. I'm sorry. This is a guide, so I'm trying to guide to you, my dear viewer, my wonderful fan, why and how you can use this item. But really, this is a guide to tell you you can't use this item. not in a way that is going to give you anything more than extremely pitiful results. 10 stacks of Antler Shield, it takes way too long to kill anyone with reflected damage. I could give myself a single razor wire. I'm going to. Give me 1 second. There we go. I have 1 razor wire. Now proc it. It killed everyone so much faster than any of the Antler Shields did. It is doing so much more damage. The Antler Shield has a proc coefficient as well, like Razor Wire. Razor Wire has 0.5. Antler Shield has 0.3. Every single aspect of the Antler Shield is scientifically designed, mathematically and scientifically designed, to be worse in every way than Razor Wire, the one item I could compare it to. And it's not even worse in just like a slight way. It is massively worse. 10 stacks of Antler Shield do not make 1 Razor Wire. I'm so glad that that is Lensmaker's glasses. I saw that from a distance and thought that was another Antler Shield, and I was about to lose my mind. But thankfully, I don't need to. So, and I don't want to hear anyone out there saying, "Oh, Kilroy, you're being disingenuous. You're using it on the Commando, a character that's not really meant to tank damage. What about the Engineer? The Engineer's turrets can inherit his item." You want to know how the Engineer does with the items? This is how the Engineer does with these items. 10 stacks, same everything, stone tight. Here, attack me, attack my turrets. See? Look at that massive damage he's being dealt. Oh my god. And guess what? All that damage is coming from the turrets shooting him. It is not coming from... Look, he got hit there. I didn't even see a proc difference. I didn't see a slight change in his health different than the amount of health he is losing based on my actual attacks. You know what I can do instead of waiting here for my turrets to shoot him and for Antler Shield to deal damage? I can do this. There you go. And I can drop mines. I can shoot him. I can use the Engineer's M1, the worst M1 that has ever been designed, and I can kill him infinitely faster than with the aid of 10 Antler Shields. Now that I've done with my smear campaign, totally justified and entirely truthful smear campaign, I would actually like to show you a way I could find the Antler Shield actually working. And that's with essentially Gearbox changing them to function the way a certain elite affix was at. That's right. If you may remember, Gearbox added the Twisted Elite to Risk of Rain 2 Seeker of the Storm DLC. An elite type that everyone hated because when you attacked anyone in the Twisted Elite's bubble of influence, they would reflect damage right back to you. Now, the elite affix for the Twisted Elite gives you that effect, and that effect only works on enemies around you. And that effect is called, I forget what it's called, 1 second. It is called His Spiteful Boon. And as you can see, it gives you this effect where anyone within this bubble, that is your ally, will reflect 2.5% of the enemy's max HP in damage back to them. Now, this is all that Antler Shield needed to be, a max HP reflection. And I'll show this on the next stage. Now, this does work much better with the Engineer because this affix only works by giving everyone around you the reflection. So if your turrets are placed, and since they inherit your equipment as well, they will give you the reflect buff so that when you take damage, enemies will lose 2.5% of their max HP. Now, I agree that 2.5% is not a ton of HP. It is not much damage, especially to enemies who have less HP. However, when you do damage based on a percentage base and not based on a flat value, you get a bonus to enemies who have large health pools to begin with. And who has the largest health pools in this game? The strongest enemies and bosses. I'm going to place a turret down, and you will see the reflecting damage from just holding this elite affix. If I ever do get hit, you can see right here, And it even functions. That that little visual cue showing this item worked looks exactly like Antler Shield. Why did they just make this elite type the Antler Shield effect but good? They could uh, today today they could change the Antler Shield's effect to work as this elite affix was his Spiteful Boon, and Antler Shield will become a usable item. It might be a little too good if one stack. Oh, and this is the perfect situation. Look at this. The equipment drone with this effect means you can get another item, but whenever you're within this area of influence and you take damage, it reflects back and hits the enemy. That is fantastic. I'm so glad I got to show that off. That is the best way you can use this type of item. But all I'm going to show you is I'm going to go to a boss and show you how this type of an effect could actually make an item that is damage reflection based good. And I know Razor Wire is an item that is based on reflecting damage, except it's not. Razor Wire just does a attack essentially back to enemies once you get hit, but it is not reflecting damage. An item like this Antler Shield, I believe this would be the best way to make it function by giving it a percent damage, or at least raising the damage you deal massively. Because I say giving it a percent, it already works on the percent damage that enemies deal to you. However, the problem with that is just that enemies deal such minuscule damage that it's really never going to make a difference unless you base it off of the enemy's HP and not their damage that they deal to you. So you look at this. This is an incredible buff. And you just saw it procced the band with the amount of damage it was dealing back to them, which is amazing. I didn't know it could do that. In fact, I don't even know how it did it to begin with. But the point being, the whole point I was trying to make here, I have the Antler Shield still. You saw from earlier, they do basically nothing. The most damage that is being reflected to this guy is coming from his Spiteful Boon. And that is the buff. That is the effect that we always needed from Antler Shield. It is interesting to see that his Spiteful Boon doesn't seem to work on the HP drain, but I suppose that makes sense. Let me just take some hits here and watch as you destroy yourself. And this is an actual fun way to play the game. I know I have a massive amount of HP because of all the Bison stakes I have, but if this type of effect was applied to the Antler Shield, I could see it being a good item. I know Gearbox is already on the path where they want to rework and change the item entirely to be a movement speed item, and that could be cool too. I do appreciate the idea of the Antler Shield. I just think its implementation was sorely lacking. So hey, in the future, all I would say is Gearbox, either give the Antler Shield a ton more damage and keep the effect, or you can follow our good old modder friend and just keep it going with your speed and your barrier. And hey, to my wonderful viewer, this is a guide, so all I would say to guide you is don't pick up Antler Shield as it exists right now. It's never worth your time. It is white scrap the item. And if you do want to pick it up and have it be usable, go download that mod I showed you. Give that man some love, because he is the Cassandra of Risk of Rain 2. Thank you very much. Have a good day.